Beechjet. We're sitting here on the ramp at Sanderson Airport. It's a perfect day for an introductory flight. We've already started our engines on the ramp and we're ready to go here. Starting with the virtual cockpit of the Beechjet, you'll notice that it's quite an array of controls from the upper right-hand quadrant all the way down to the floor and the center pedestal. Got quite a bit of things here to control, and that would be typical of any jet aircraft. But once you learn the jet, it becomes quite easy to operate, just as any aircraft. There's not a heck of a lot of difference in the actual physics of flight with a jet aircraft. The only thing that really differs is the landing. Differs a lot from a light general aviation airplane. We'll check to the left. It looks all clear, and to the right, so we'll go ahead and start our taxi. With any jet aircraft, remember that the thrust you apply, you can throw things around pretty bad in the back end of you. We'll release our brakes and we'll start to taxi out. Just a nudge on the throttles is all you need to get the Beechjet moving. Its engines are powerful enough and its weight light enough to where just a little bit of power is all you need to get it to taxi. Looking at the inside of the cockpit, we'll see our airspeed gauge. It doesn't register anything until we actually build up 40 knots, but our ground speed registers 6 knots, so you can see that on our true airspeed line of the GPS unit. As we taxi, we want to make sure that our flight controls are free and correct, and all our checklist items have been met. The runway here is long enough for a regular flap up takeoff. We've got about half tanks of fuel, and a good weather day outside, not very hot or anything, so takeoff ground run's probably only going to be about 3,500 feet or so with flaps up. And with up to 20 degrees of flaps down, you can get airborne in as little as about 2,800 feet. Here's a high overhead view of Sanderson, and as we taxi along, a couple of the pre-flight items we would check before takeoff include that of checking the reverse thrust operation, very important for landing and takeoff. Actually, just for landing. We're going to unlock the reversers using the star unlock key. It's going to throw the buckets open in the rear. Now we'll check the deploy operation by nudging in just a touch of power, and it looks good. We'll undo that and stow the reversers. From the outside you can see them working just fine. We'll do another test. And it looks good. We'll continue our taxi. Now that we've passed that test, we certainly are ready to go. Making sure that our trim is in order. Flaps, speed brakes are stowed down. Of course, we don't want those up, or takeoff would be very difficult. And using the overhead panel at an option, we'll make sure that our anti-collision light, strobe lights are on, and our ignition remains on for departure. Now they're lined up with the runway center line, we're ready for takeoff. Once we rotate, that'll be about 130 knots. Actually, due to the cool temperatures here, we're going to rotate just a little bit sooner than that. Once before departure, again, we're going to line up and put on our brakes for a second here, just double check all our systems and pay attention to our checklists. If there's no traffic in the area, you don't need to put on landing lights. Just as a demonstration, remember on the Beechjet, you're equipped with special landing lights. Both lights are on, and if you want them to flash alternate for better collision avoidance, that's Shift L. Our strobes are on, and our beacon and our nav lights. So ready to go. Let's go for a departure. Full power. And brakes released at about 40%. We'll check everything is fine. All pressure and systems look good. 60 knots. 80 knots. 100 nose will become quite light and it may just rotate on itself. If so, keep the pitch at about 10 degrees and let it come off the ground where it wants. You'll bring the gear up at a positive rate of climb. And the flaps are up. Use your backspace trim to get the auto trim working for you and help bring the nose down. Trim away some of those forces as we accelerate. And we're climbing out here at about 1,300 feet a minute. Once our speed builds up past 200, our climb rate will also increase. Trimming the nose down for a forward climb speed of 250 knots will be my target. Anytime below 10,000 I can be at 250. Throttle back now, and any further thrust would bring us well above 250 knots. At this time we're going to start a turn back towards the airport. Again, due to the length of time here available, we're going to make this a short flight for you. Leave the rest for you to discover. We're 220 knots now, power's back to about 61%. Back towards the Sanderson Airport. Looks like it is there. I'll be entering a 45-degree entry for the traffic pattern. Making a left downwind there. Slowly easing the power back, keeping the speed at 220 or less. Remember how fast you're entering the pattern compared to somebody else. Speed is now easing back to 200. I have the power at idle. Power at idle right now because otherwise, well, there's no need to. Coming downhill, we're slippery enough aircraft where we certainly don't need any power on the approach. Now we are downwind for Sanderson at this time. Just like in the Mooney and in the STEMI motor glider, we have spoilers. The jet spoilers are quite powerful. Engage them as you would, and it's going to increase in a noticeable rumbling sound as the air flow is disrupted above the wing. It's going to reduce our speed. As I add spoilers, I start to pull back little bit by bit to keep the descent rate from increasing. However, I want to descend some, and that's fine. I'm down to 160. I'm going to put in one notch of flaps and the gear come down. And that'll be our configuration for downwind. One notch of flaps and gear down. The speed is bled back to 140. I'm going to make sure that my spoilers are off. And add a second notch of flaps as I approach the base leg at Sanderson. And on base leg, to have a speed of about 140 to 160 is good. It's on the slow side, but fine as long as the winds are light. And 2 notches of flaps. We're going to auto trim ourselves for the nose up. Hit your backspace key again. Let the nose trim run itself up to help you ease the nose up gently. Auto trim off now, taking off the left view. Looks good. And I'm down to 120. It's getting a little bit slow for turns and base and stuff, so I'm going to add a little bit more thrust. And keep my speed closer to 140 if I can. The plane really doesn't become mushy and stally until you're down to about 100 knots. This airplane will land quite slowly, and the stall speeds are quite low. The winds are light, so we can go in for a full flap landing here in the jet. And that's going to bring our final speed down to about 115, anywhere between 110 and 115 knots. Now with full flaps and gear down, once you're on a stabilized glide slope, you're going to have to run the throttles up to about 50 to 60% power, depending on the outside conditions. Right now, the cold temperatures we have during this recording have a low 40% power setting at 120 knots. You're landing a jet now. You're going to have to reduce the power to idle once you're much lower than a small plane. Right here, about 30 feet up, power to idle. Keep the nose up, 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 up. Main wheel contact. Keep the nose wheel off the ground for a minute. Pop the spoilers. Lower the nose. Unlock the reversers. And you're going to apply full reverse thrust. 70% reverse thrust. Speed's bleeding off. 80 knots. 70 knots. 60 knots. 50 knots. Close reversers. And we're down to about 40 knots. You're going to apply wheel brakes if necessary. You can stow the reversers. And wheel brakes, and we've come to a stop here using the entire runway. Okay, we're going to come to a stop here, and we hope you enjoyed that.